Have you ever thought of what it looks like or how to identify when an animal goes from subadult to adult? I mean, you can weigh it, but what if you really knew? Like, what if you really knew?
All these brothers, my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. All these brothers, my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice.
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Paul with Spheric Reptiles, and I'm so happy that you're tuning in today to watch this video. I try to keep this short, upbeat, and positive, right? So I'm always trying to be positive, and that's something that I got from a buddy Will over there at Flawless Exotic. I'm taking some of the comments that we get and just really trying to see if I can provide a solution or an answer. In this video, I will be actually discussing the physiological change or the physical change, just a shorter word, of the ball pythons as they go from subadult to adult, and how to identify that, some of the genes that are coming in play, and well, not really the genes, but the chemicals that come in play, and just so that you can better be prepared for when they go off a feed, right? So the video before this, if you haven't seen it, you could tune in and watch. It basically discusses ball python enrichment and activity and how that relates to food. And in that video, we proved that if your ball python is more active, then they eat more. Well, this is a totally separate type of video where we're talking about just those physiological changes as them going from basically the teenage stage in ball python, maybe a later age teenager, so like an 18 or 19-year-old, into a full-blown adult at like 25 or 26, right? In human times, like not 25 years old for a ball python. I hope you're not thinking that. But anyway, so we're going to discuss those right now. So the average subadult male is anywhere like full, I mean, we're talking about a real subadult is going to be 2 to 2.5 feet long. A female will be 2.5 to 3 feet long. So, all right, so the female in this species is the larger of the two. The male is like, he ends up being like maybe half of her size or maybe 2/3 of what her max size is in some cases. And of course, there's extremes on both sides. There's very, very small females or very, very small males. There's middle and there's gigantic ones, right? So if we look at the adult sizes, there is just like, this is one of the reasons why people like to keep ball pythons, right? Because of this next thing that I'm about to tell you. So the adult ball python is, for males, it's 3 to 4 feet, right? So that's the average max size of an adult male. So 3 to 4 feet. Now, a female ball python is 4 to 5 feet on average. Now, there are some that get to 6, and then there's even some gigantic ones out there that are like almost 8 feet. So, I mean, but we're talking about the typical range. So we're looking at, for males again, they're going to be 3 to 4 feet. Females are going to be 4 to 5 feet, with some cases being 6 feet. And that's what you got. So as you move from subadult to adult, your animal will probably gain 1 or 2 feet max over the course of their lifespan. Without anything else, I'll go ahead and tell you the different stages of why or what's happening to them when they go from subadult to adult. So the first thing that you'll notice is a major growth size change. That's the first thing that we notice, right? We say, oh, the animal's getting bigger. Like, it's noticeably bigger. When you weigh it, when you hold it, you can actually feel that it's bigger. So that's the main thing. So as they move from subadult to adult, one of the key things that you'll notice is that they are increasing in their muscle tone and size, right? So they become more muscular for whatever reason, because you got to think, as they get bigger, now they're moving from the prey size, which is the limiting factor, to a larger prey size. And everything is based on the wild, not in captivity, because in captivity, we train them to do a different thing. But if we look at ball pythons in their natural environment, then you'll notice that as they get bigger, they take on larger prey size. And for them in that environment, that's advantageous, because now they're not so low on the food chain, and it allows them to eat fewer items during the year and put themselves at risk fewer times, and as well as sustain that muscle growth. Secondly, the muscle definition. Now, this is separate from muscle growth and size, right? We're talking about muscle definition. So they become more toned as they go from that subadult to that adult size, and their muscle fibers actually get thicker. So they not only get thicker, but they get stronger and they get longer. And this is all to be able to handle larger prey items, right? So prey that could possibly hurt them. And again, they are constrictors, so they want to be able to get that prey item, constrict it, and limit the damage that can be done to themselves in the process before they eat it. One of the key things that you'll notice, it's something that I noticed off the bat, right? So with other species, you don't see this as much, but with ball pythons, with the exception of the fancy versions, I mean, the ones that breeders really shoot for, but if you take a regular ball python, what you'll notice is there is a color change in the animal as it goes from subadult to adult. It doesn't really matter what it is, it will change, right? It might get duller, but in some cases it might remain the same and get brighter. It just depends on the ball python that you have. One of the key things that you'll notice is that the color change will be a little bit muted and it might get a little bit more brown, but this is all because of the increase in size. Now this color pattern is stretched out further. So if you look at your hatchlings, and I have a picture of a hatchling here, if you look at your hatchlings, then you'll notice that they're very vibrant. The reason why they are very vibrant is because all that color is compacted into a small little package. Now, this is the maximum amount of color or coloration that they have for their whole life. So as it gets stretched out and the animal gets bigger, it's just like skin or a tattoo. When you have a brand new tattoo, it's great. But as you get older and your skin gains weight, or you gain weight really, because your skin doesn't really gain weight, but your skin starts to replicate over and over and over, that tattoo starts to dull out. Well, the same thing happens in ball pythons as they get older. The coloration dulls most of the time, but not always. One of the key differences that I noticed are these last two, right? So the first of the last two, and this is number 4 on the list, is that their scales actually get thicker. So it seems like not only are they getting bigger, more muscles, their skin's getting a little bit, well, their scales, they don't really have, I guess you can call scale skin, but either way, you know what I'm talking about. The scales themselves get actually thicker and they get a little bit tougher because of the environment that they'll be exposing themselves to, the prey items that they'll be getting, but just the fact that they're getting bigger and older requires them to get a little bit tougher scales. So the scales, you'll notice on the underbelly, that those are actually thicker, and there's like, you can, if you look, you can actually see that there's a covering on it. So it's like a little, it looks a little waxy, but it's clear before the scale and it gives it its shimmer and its shine, but those actually get thicker. After that, you'll notice that the head size actually gets bigger. And this, to me, is the largest transformation that you'll see other than the size and things, is that you can noticeably notice that the head is bigger. The scales around the mouth and the pits are just, they are more mature looking, they're thicker, they are more robust. You'll notice that their jaw muscles at the back of their head, they are really defined, and you can actually see that this animal is now made for handling a larger prey item, which is the goal, right? The goal for these ball pythons isn't to eat small animals all the time, extremely small animals. They want to eat rats and other things like that that come across their path that will provide them more nutrition and have, you know, not need as many meals. I mean, because in the wild, when ball pythons expose themselves, they're not always exposing themselves to get a meal. Sometimes when they expose themselves, they become the prey item as well. So now what I want to do is discuss the actual chemicals that are involved. And it's only 4 of them, and I'll try to keep it short, guys. But I think that if you can understand the physiologic things that you can notice and the actual chemicals, you'll be able to better understand when your ball python is going from subadult to adult. And I mean, isn't that the goal? Like, to learn as much as you can. And I know this is all like an educational thing, but I think that it's a benefit. Number 1 chemical is growth hormone, right? So growth hormone is secreted from the pituitary gland, and it is pivotal at increasing cell division, which they need to get bigger. Like if you're going to grow anything, bone mass, muscle mass, scale size, you got to have something that's kicking it. And that is a growth hormone that's kicked out from the pituitary gland. And it acts on like a negative feedback loop, so there's never too much. But in a sense, what's happening is the pituitary, which is deep inside the brain, it secretes for these ball pythons this growth hormone, and it kind of soaks the entire body. You know, it goes through the whole body, and it just really soaks it. So this is the active ingredient that helps these cells to go from that subadult cell size, which is smaller, to replicating and becoming larger cells. So, and this also increases the animal's metabolism at the same time. So it does 2 things, this growth hormone. It increases body size and it increases muscular development. So that is the number one chemical that you got. Next on the list are the thyroid hormones. So, when we think of thyroids, it's really metabolism, immunity, a lot of things like that go into your thyroid, which for the ball python plays a pivotal role. And the first one that we have is T3, and the second one we have is T4. T3 is trilodithyrionine. And the second one, or the T4, is thyroxine. So those are the two hormones that you got at play. And they do a fantastic job of just, getting in there and working on that metabolism, increasing this appetite. So the animal is not only growing, it's getting the fuel so that it can actually have fuel to grow, which, that's one of the reasons why a lot of the times, right after they go through this transition of not being on food, they're extremely hungry and they just want this food because they're going through another growth phase and their body's getting ready for this growth phase. So they need these extra nutrients just so they can make it work. Remember that all this increase in metabolism and everything is to prepare that ball python's body to handle a larger prey item, right? So even in captivity, they're still going to go through these same things because the ball pythons have been around in the wild for millions of years before they ever met us. And this is one of the things that actually helped them to get to this stage. T3 and T4 hormones actually help to prepare them for the rest of their life, which, comes up pretty quick for a ball python. Within 2 to 3 years, they're going to be adults. And so they got like 25 more years. In the wild, it's significantly less because, let's face it, there's more predation in the wild. So they don't live as long. Then right now there's habitat destruction and people are getting them in and exporting them out from West Africa. But that's another subject. So, but those are the two hormones that actually come into play. Let's talk about sexy talk. Sexy talk, sexy talk. So just like in humans or all species of animals, snakes or ball pythons, they have testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone as well. So in the male, testosterone is a key sexual hormone. And what this causes is increase in size and increase in aggression. This plays out well for the ball python because in the wild, it might actually have to fight off a competitive ball python that's trying to breed a female that's close to him. And this male wants to be the only one breeding, in which that sometimes they'll even go off food because of this sex drive. And this is all from the testosterone hormone. Now, if we flip that over to the females, what you'll see is they have estrogen and progesterone. And these two cells are very, very vital to the ball python. And when it comes to follicle development, as well as storing fat. So not only are these animals getting bigger and they're going through this phase to become an adult, but they're also at the same time developing follicles along a string, and as well as storing up fat so that when they come across that male that's sexually mature, he's got all this testosterone and muscle that they can actually reproduce, be reproductive with each other. I'm going to use that term. Yeah, be reproductive with each other. And that's how it works, guys. Now, the females still have some testosterone, but the amount is very, very low compared to the male who has more testosterone than progesterone and estrogen, even though there is a little bit of progesterone and estrogen in all species. It's flip-flopped versus male and female, right? So very, very easy to understand. So we got, the first one is growth hormone. The next one is you got T3 and T4, which work on metabolism to help, increase that appetite. And then we got the sex hormones, and the very last one is the insulin-like growth factor 1, right? So the way this works, if I can remember from immunology, is that it actually helps in the cell division, right? So this is one of the things that cause us to either grow fast or not grow at all, right? And so when you have this insulin growth factor 1 in there, then when you have this insulin-like growth factor 1 in there, then what you see is that the animal cells are just replicating. So again, so when they go off a feed, when they get around 800 to 1,000 grams, as they start to move into their adult bodies, this is causing them to go through a little bit of a growing pain, I would think. This is my opinion on this one. I think that they go through a little bit of growing pain because the insulin-like growth factor 1 is just kicking in and their muscles are replicating. Their bones are actually growing. So they're going through a resorption rate where they're actually developing more bone than they're losing. as they go to an adult because they need thicker bones. Their scales are getting thicker. I mean, everything, their heart's getting stronger, their intestines are growing because everything has to grow at the same rate so that they can accommodate their larger prey size as they move into their adult bodies. Now, they can still eat the smaller prey items, but you'll see as they get bigger and become adults, they'll end up eating more of those smaller prey items than just the one if it's not available, right? So, but we've covered these things. So I talked about the physiologic changes, things that you can recognize, as well as the hormonal changes, other things as the causes of the physical changes. And this is all so that you can understand more about your ball pythons. I mean, you could read this information on your own, but I just put out the video for it, so I hope you like it. And if you do, please subscribe to it. More importantly, let me know what you think. And, I just hope that you're having fun with your reptiles. As I always say, enjoy the time that you spend with your reptiles and cherish that time you have with your families. Thanks, guys.